Hello, everyone. I'm Doc from the Ebony Ivory Cigar Podcast. A few days ago, I did a podcast on the proper way to light a cigar. If you haven't seen that podcast yet, I encourage you to go take a look at it. Very informative information about the proper way to light a cigar. And I had someone who, after viewing the video, asked me, well, before you light the cigar, they wanted to know the proper way for cutting a cigar. So that's what we'll be talking about today. A very short video on the proper way to cut a cigar. And so I brought with me three different cigars. This is a Toro, My Father the Judge, which is a box press cigar with a round cap. It's still in the box press format, but the cap is round, almost like a rectangle. Here you have a 90s plus cigar with a Torpedo cap. And again, this is about a Toro size, about 6 inches, 52 ring gauge. And lastly, this is a completely round cigar. It's a Bandolero Series E, a very good quality cigar, round cap, round cigar, again Toro size, 6x52. My personal favorite way to cut a cigar, personally, is the punch. This is a tool that I use. It's a multi-tool. On one end, you have a large punch for your larger ring gauge, and this also turns out to be a holder. And then if I flip this around, this has a smaller ring gauge for a punch, smaller punch, as well as a tool to be able to punch through to get more airflow. I think it's called a drawer. But I will be I like the smaller punch in my cigars. So let's start off with this, and let's put a punch on the box press, My Father the Judge. Again, rectangular cap that's rounded. And I just take the punch, and I want the punch to do the work. I don't want to force it in there, because if you force it, then you're going to split the wrapper. So you basically, I like to find the center. Some people like to do off. And I find the center on the cap, and I just gently twist back and forth. And again, I'm letting the punch itself do the work. I'm not pressing too hard. I'm just pressing enough to keep it on the cap in the same location. And I just twist back and forth and take my time and let the cap, the punch, actually do the work, not splitting the cap. So as you can see here, perfect round hole. There's no splitting on the cap whatsoever. And that's what a punch looked like, smaller gauge, because I am dealing with a Toro size 52 ring gauge cigar. This type of punch, as you begin to close it down, the little residue from the cap spills out, and you just toss it into an ashtray. The next cigar that I'll be looking at is the Torpedo. Now on the Torpedo, you could do various cuts. You could do a straight cut, which is a guillotine cut. Some people like to do a V cut. I'm going to show you the V cut on the next cigar. And on this one, I'm just going to do a straight cut or a guillotine. I like to use a cutter by the name of Calibri. It is two-sided. So on one side, you have the V cut, and on the other side, you have a straight cut. For this demonstration, I'm going to use a straight cut. So I basically hold the cigar at an angle. I go on my straight side. I look to see how much of the cap do I want to take off, not going below the cap line. And thus you have a straight cut. I usually at that point, I pop it back open, the little cap falls out, the residue, and you can see approximately how much I took off of that straight cut for a torpedo. Lastly, this again was the Bandolero Series E. It is a rounded cigar with a rounded foot. Now on this cigar, you could do any of the cuts. You could do a punch, which was our first one. You can do a straight cut, which is, you always want to make sure you cut above the cap line. That cap line on here, you can kind of see it going around right about there. So you got plenty of space to cut. You can do a straight cut, but on this one, I'm gonna do a V cut, and I'm gonna follow it up by what they call a diamond crown cut, which is very simple. So on my Calibri, which has two sides, now I would use the V side. I place the cigar in there, straighten it out, come straight down. And that is your V cut. As you can see, it's just a V groove cut completely straight across the cap of the cigar. Now that's your standard V cut. Some people have actually got a little bit fancy, for lack of a better word, and actually do what's called a diamond crown cut. So after they have done the V cut in this particular direction, let's say this is horizontal, they come along with the opposite direction to almost make an X with the same V cutter, but now doing it perpendicular. And what that gets you is what's called a diamond crown. Almost look like a diamond, and you can see that it's actually two V cuts crossing each other. V cut that way, turn it 180 degrees, and you have another V cut. And that gives you what's called the diamond crown cap or diamond crown cut. Again, with the V cut, the Calibri is very sharp. It's all metal, and you have no splitting of your cap when you make these cuts. It's very sharp and precise. I'm Doc, and thank you for watching another episode of the Ebony Ivory Cigar Podcast. I look forward to seeing you again as you view these podcasts for more information for us cigar enthusiasts. Have a great day.